The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Tuesday episode of Running Point, brought to you as always by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same here on Running Point every single day. We thank them for their constant support and sponsorship of not just this show, but everything that we do on Ysn. We got a great show for you today. Not only are we going to talk about the tournament games and the boys basketball that are going on tonight, we're going to dive into the discussion a little bit on the girls basketball postseason awards. Just throwing out names and throwing out things that we might see and just my take on everything. Going to talk a little bit about that as well. We have an interview today to play for you guys from a LeBray bowler, Brogan Collins, who finished first out of 80 bowlers in the sectional tournament last week. And he bowled exceptionally well. This LeBray bowling team, both boys and girls, very good. They had the first place finisher in sectionals on both sides, boys and girls. I had a chance to catch up with Brogan Collins, who is also a very key member of their baseball team last week. And we talked a little bit about his bowling career. I learned a little bit about the X's and O's and the inside scoop on bowling that I was excited about, because there's a lot more finesse and strategy, and there's a lot more that goes into it than your recreational, let's just go to the bowling alley every night and eat a pizza while we make fun of ourselves for rolling gutter balls. But it was a fun conversation. Can't wait for you guys to hear that one. It'll play in a little bit. And like I said, we're also going to talk about tonight's tournament games, of course. And then a little bit of a dive into, postseason awards, talking about who I think are some names that might be thrown around. None of it's going to be official. I'm not announcing anything. Just my take. I like talking about girls basketball, so I'll just throw out some names and things like that. Talk about some seasons that players have had, since seasons are winding down, and we're in the district semifinals on that end of the spectrum. So it's nice to kind of take a reflection and talk about some of the amazing athletes that we've been able to see this winter season. Some are still playing. Some we're going to talk about, unfortunately, aren't still playing. I mean, that's just the reality of tournament basketball. A lot of talented kids go home early, and that's just how it is. You have to play each other, right? So talented kids playing talented kids, someone's got to go home. But before we get to all of that, I do want to have some house cleaning. Right now, like I was watching it up until I couldn't, there's a press conference going on. Our partners over at WFMJ have it live on their station, also live on their Facebook. This more about the East Palestine train derailment. Everyone that you would expect to be in that conversation is in that conversation. The EPA, both governors of Pennsylvania and Ohio. It's just another way that we hear from some people that we want to hear from, right? And I would encourage you to check that out and go and turn it on. Basically, especially if you're affected by it, if you're in East Palestine, it's a little bit more important maybe than me just blabbing about sports. But I was watching it up until the point when I couldn't. I literally turned it off and hit go live. So I'm trying to keep updated. I've said it before. I said it again. It's not my home per se where I live. I'm sitting here in Boardman, which, by the way, is getting really heavy winds. Right before I came on, like my room was rattling from the wind I was getting, and I was like, oh man. windy day here in Boardman, Ohio. But that being said, East Palestine isn't my home where I live, but it's still a home to me because it's where I make a living. It's everything I've done for 5 years for YSN, through YSN. Its lifeblood is East Palestine. So obviously, everyone that works for YSN, everyone that has their hands in the pile at YSN is very, very affected by what's going on. Our ears are perked just as much, and we want everyone there to be as comfortable as possible and have the best chances possible. DJ has been all up everywhere, Fox Business, everywhere he could get his hands on, telling the story of East Palestine, what they're going through, what they're trying to come back from, how they're going to come back from it. So I just wanted to shout out the fact that there is this press conference going on right now, and our friends over at WFMJ have you covered with that. What a great partnership we have with them. We've had with them for a while, and it continues. They have done a really fantastic job covering this whole situation from the night it happened. They were, I think they were the first on the ground there. They were definitely the only ones that I saw in the first press conference that happened that night, and they've been done a tremendous job covering it ever since. So if you get some time, and definitely if you're affected by it, if you're in that affected area, you might want to go check out that press conference if you're not already. I'm sure you are. I don't think I'm breaking any news. I don't think anyone was tuning into Anthony and saying, "Oh, I didn't know that." And then, I'm sure I'm not. But in case, for some strange reason, if one of my listeners or one of my watchers doesn't know and wants to go check that out, make sure you go check out WFMJ for that press conference. One more piece of house cleaning or a thing that I want to shout out before we get on to what we're going to talk about today. The Scrappers are officially 100 days away from the start of the season. Obviously, their season starts June 1st, and we are once again proud to be partners with Scrappers Baseball, and we'll have the games covered from Eastwood Field. But in honor of the 100-day mark, the Scrappers are putting out some early specialty packages that you can purchase only until Sunday. So these are like limited time. You got to get them by Sunday, but they're really good packages. I want to go over what you can get out of these. Package number one, this is worth 100 smackaroons. So if you want to divvy up the $100, this is what you get out of that. 15 undated vouchers valid for upper or lower or premium box seats. You have 6 perfect game vouchers that are hot dog and fountain drink and chips included with what you got up top. You'll also get 15% off merchandising orders, and you'll have a $25 Eastwood Mall gift card for that package. Also available, package number 2, you have for the same price, so 100 smackaroons, 4 Diamond Club tickets to a 2023 Scrappers game. For those of you that don't know, Diamond Club tickets are premium seating directly behind home plate with all you can eat and drink out of the specialty menu delivered to your seat and guaranteed giveaway items delivered to your seats on giveaway nights. You'll also get autographed Dimitri Young baseball, an autographed Dimitri Young baseball for that package, which is also worth $100. Package number 3, this one is $50. You'll get 1 gift card worth $100 redeemable for merchandise and game tickets and food. Food and beverage at Eastwood Field in the stadium or at the box office. It is not redeemable online. So those are your 3 packages that you can get up until Sunday. And you can get them at MahoningValleyScrappers.com. So go out there, make sure you get that. You have until the 26th to do it. The clock is ticking, and you have 3 great packages, 2 of them $100 value, 1 of them $50 value. And I think that is absolutely a fair price for what you're getting out of each one of those 3 packages that you can buy from the Mahoning Valley Scrappers. We're so excited for baseball season to start, and it is officially 100 days until the season in Mahoning Valley and Eastwood Field kicks. Well, I shouldn't say kicks off. That's football. What would you say for baseball? You can't say at first pitches. That doesn't sound right. Huh. Comes to the plate. You guys think about that during the show, and if you have an idea of how you would how you would describe in like kicks off, tips off, or the baseball, basketball. I mean, football, basketball, face off is hockey. What would you say for a baseball? Like the season, what? The season blanks in 100 days. Give me some ideas. Hit the comment section. I want to hear. Because now my brain's rattling. I'm kind of sidetracked. Uh, oh, good thing it's a free live stream, right? Otherwise, you'd pay for my mind just going off in tangents and not knowing what the heck you're doing. Uh, welcome to the show. This is what we're gonna do now. We're gonna start talking about just some my take on some postseason awards. Once again, I am not at all announcing anything. This is not me saying, hey, this person wins or this person wins. This is like some names I would throw in the hat. I want to talk about some seasons that some players have had. If they haven't been shined the light on yet, or if you're new to kind of watch Ysn, or you don't know what this player has done or what they've accomplished this year, or how special X and X and X are. Just want to throw out some names. Just talk about some players and some coaches and stuff that I think would make really good nominees, I guess I would say, in my opinion, for these postseason awards. And we give out several of them every year. And one of the ones that we obviously give out and we'll start with is just the MVP, right? Most valuable player for girls basketball. And there's so much talent that is spread throughout the YSN area that is really hard to describe. Um, really hard to describe, who has the edge on who. I mean, you look around and just the teams that are still alive, right? Because you got Springfield and they have JC Mullen, right? JC Mullen's definitely in this conversation. You talk about a girl that has broken the program scoring record on both sides of the basketball program. She has brought some excellent versatility to her game this season. You look at the way she's able to post up in the paint, score in the paint whenever she wants. She can drive. She's a good ball handler. She can come out in the perimeter. She can score. She's got a strong body that is just hard to deal with for most guards that are supposed to guard her. She has a size advantage on almost, a lot of players that are going to be up defending her because of the position that she plays. She's not the straight up post player, so most teams aren't going to put their rim protector on her. They just aren't athletic enough to guard Mullen out of the perimeter. And then if you put a more speedy guard on her, it's just not a physical matchup that's good for you. It's very tough. And so when you look at Springfield, they're still alive. Boop, district semifinals, they have that. And then you look at Salem, obviously. Salem's still alive. Everyone talks about Abby Davidson, the way she runs the show for the Quakers. Definitely their leading scorer. But I think when you talk about Abby Davidson, I think it goes past just the fact that she leads in scoring. Obviously, she's capable of going off for 20 points every night. I think she averages around 17 or 18 points per. Don't have the stats in front of me, but that would be my. I mean, I do a lot of their stories. I see a lot of their stories. I see a lot of their stats come in, and every night it feels like she's around that 17, 15, 18, 20 mark, and then every now and then she'll pop off for 26, 27, 30. But I think it goes past that because I've seen Salem live a couple of times. I haven't had the pleasure to see them live as much as some other teams. We have great announcers that take care of, especially DJ for their home games. He takes care of Salem really well. So I haven't got to see them live too much, but when I do and when I have, what I realize and what I think is one of the keys to their success this year compared to last year, and I've said this before, I think their offensive power this year, their offensive consistency this year is a step up from last year. And I think a healthy Abby Davidson is a really big reason why. You look at the way she just runs the floor, the way that she commands the basketball, the way she commands that offense, it goes past the numbers. It really does. I mean, because just numbers wise, I think if people will say you take Abby Davidson off the floor, you still have offensive threats, you still have defensive threats, and Salem is still a really good basketball team. And I'm not arguing that. I think Salem would still be a really good basketball team if for some reason Abby Davidson wasn't on the floor. They still have Cami Rome, they still have Riley Hutton. We saw what Louisville was able to do in Salem without Riley Hutton. Obviously, Riley Hutton has a big impact on that team. But I think without Abby Davidson on the floor, there are some intangibles that you would miss that go past the numbers. And I think the biggest one would just be the calming factor on the offensive side. The person you can just and get the ball to in hectic situations, and you know it's going to calm down. The person you can get the ball to and say, uh, we're going to have a fortuitous situation come about because Abby Davidson has the ball in her hands. And I think one, because she's healthy, and two, because she's a lot more confident because of that. I think we've seen that really just shine bright this year in the Salem offense, and it's made the other players better too. And you look at the other players that returned that were pins in this team last year, all of them are more confident on the offensive side. And I can't say this for sure because I'm not with Salem in practice and I'm not with them in their locker room, but I would think Abby Davidson has a big part in building other people's confidence level. I think she is one of those players, and all these players that I'm talking about are the same way, because you look at I'll go back to JC Mullen in a bit, but you look at all these players that I'm going to talk about and the teammates that are around them and the developments they've made, and obviously some of that has to do with coaching. Salem has a great coaching staff, great job, but I think especially in high school and especially in girls basketball, I'm going to say this: I think teammates can develop players' confidence a lot better than coaches can. And I've seen it time and time again. A coach can tell a girl out the wazoo how good she is, right? But they don't really buy it. But if one of the teammates that they respect, maybe they make a mistake and that teammate is right there with them saying, "You got this. This is you. I believe in you." I feel like that just impacts more. That has more impact to a player at this level than it does from a coach. And that's not everywhere. Some players, everyone is different, right? Everyone has to be coached different. Everyone reacts differently to different things. But I think this is a broad discussion. I think players, especially on the girls' side, react more from their confidence level, from their teammates gassing them up, than their coaches. And Abby Davidson is one of those players that just raises the bar to her teammates, especially on the confidence level. I've talked about it time and time again this year. Their offense is a lot more confident than it was last year. Their players are stepping into bigger roles on offense. They're scoring more consistently because they're more confident in their own ability to score. And I think Abby Davidson has a big reason why, and I think that's behind the scenes stuff that doesn't really go into the stats. Her stats are great. Like, her stats will line up against other players that we talk about, but I think if you just took her stats away, Salem would be okay. They would find ways to score. Their defense would find ways to hold people. But if you take away those behind the scenes stuff, I don't know. I don't know if Salem's offensive players that are scoring with Abby Davidson this year are as confident without her on that team. I don't know if they develop the way they do without her on that team. I think it's something to look at, and how valuable you are to your team's success goes into the discussion of most valuable player, right? And then we talk about some other players that are still alive. Canfield's going to get this is going to go right into Canfield fans. They're going to get a little bit unswept under the rug in this conversation. Not my conversation, but when people have this conversation about best players in the area, because Canfield is so balanced. They're so dang balanced. You look at their stats and there's no one that's blowing up the stat column, because they have four players that are averaging over 8 points per. There's not one player that you look at Canfield saying, "Wow, they're the most valuable player." It's Canfield's a true team effort, right? Even Abby McElroy, who leads them in scoring, is only. I mean, I say only, like, this is downgrading it, but I hate saying that, but it's 12 points, 12, 13 points per. Her shooting is electric. I think Canfield goes well when she starts well and she's shooting well, but she's had droughts this year and they've been fine. Trevery has had droughts this year. They've been fine. Solly has been able to right the ship. I would argue, honestly, if you wanted to take someone from that team and put them into the MVP kind of conversation, like who, if you ask Anthony, if you ask what am I saying, speaking in third person for? If you ask me, hey, who do you think is the most valuable player on that Canfield basketball team that is playing in the district semifinals tomorrow? I would honestly say Kate Solly. because they have so many shooters that thrive on their perimeter space, right? We have a true statement from Kimberly Grexa. I find that true for our team. Boom. I missed when that comment came in, so it might be talking about Salem. But when you look at Canfield, they have so many deadly shooters from the perimeter that thrive on their space that they're able to get from three. But all of that comes because teams have to respect Sully's ability to drive into the paint, because I'm not breaking any news. Closer you get to the hoop, the more higher percentage that shot is, right? So you have to respect the girl that can drive first. You have to respect a girl that can come in and get close to the hoop and get the high percentage shots first. And if you don't respect that first, then forget guarding the 3-point shooters. And you see so many defenses come in. They're so worried about the shooters. They're trying to stay on them. They're trying to not give Treveri or McElroy or Harmon any kind of space. And then because of that, they're in a very vulnerable position guarding someone that can drive right down the lane. And you see Sully just pick the defense apart. And that then makes the defense collapse. And then that opens up space for their deadly 3-point shooters. But without that, people just take them off the 3-point line and say, you can't do it. You can't shoot that way. The only way to beat Canfield, and this is why Salem matches up with them so well, and that's why Salem beat them this year, you have to be able to take Sully's drive away one-on-one and still be able to guard their shooters. And Salem has the athletes to do that. They can take the drive away. They have a great rim protector, probably one of the best blockers that we see on the Ysn family, that can stay back there, guard against the drive, but then they don't have to sacrifice their 3-point defense to do it. And a lot of teams, big, small, good, Canfield has played a lot of good teams, a lot of big teams, but you see a lot of teams that they play and they just can't stop her one-on-one, and they have to divulge other defensive assets to it, and that leaves room for the shooters. And that's why I would say that Sully is the most valuable player on that Canfield basketball team. We go into West Branch, who is also in that district, by the way. Obviously, you would look and say Sophia Gregory, right? Like that's a no-brainer. She was hurt, they were struggling, she came back, and they were doing good. And yes, that would be my pick too. But I want to give a shout out to some other players, because I've said it before, when she was starting to come back, don't forget that there were a couple of games in a row right before she came back, where they were starting to figure some things out. They were starting to realize that they could succeed without Gregory on the floor. And I think that's one of the big reasons why they have hit the ground running when she came back. Because if you remember, and Richie brought this up so well, so brilliantly on the Power Hour yesterday, if you remember the beginning of the season, before Gregory got hurt against Minerva very early, I think it was the 4th or 5th game, West Branch did struggle a little bit. They did struggle a little bit with even with Sophia Gregory on the floor. I think because they had to replace so much from last year. People forget what they lost last year because they brought Sophia Gregory back. But you have your best rebounder gone from graduation in Sydney Mercer. You have a huge chunk of your offense gone in Anna Lippiett. So you replace those two, and I think they struggle a little bit filling those two voids. Lippy had scored at least 65%, 50, 65% of their offense, and her way of scoring was a lot different than Sophia Gregory's way of scoring. So I think losing Anna Lippy, and I think a lot of people forgot about that. Forgot about the impact she had on that West Branch team. They brought back a player that signed to YSU, and everyone just thought, well, West Branch is going to be world beaters again. They're bringing back a Division I basketball player. And I think the first week or two of the season, even before she got hurt, you saw West Branch kind of struggle a little bit. And I think you can't forget that. Now when they came back to my original point, I think West Branch in those weeks without her, those last couple of games, can't remember. I would have to think of who they played, but I remember very specifically thinking before she came back, like the 4 games before she came back, thinking to myself, wow, West Branch is starting to figure it out. They're starting to figure out how they can succeed without her on the floor. Obviously, Walt DeShields had to do some very quick kind of adjustments on the fly this season, because he never expected Sophia Gregory to get hurt. No one did. No one expects that. But when she goes out, the whole thing changes. And they still had good players, but their positions had to change, their roles had to change. And even if you're a good player, that's hard to kind of figure out. But I think what they did is they said, we still have talent. We just have to figure out how to use that talent in a different way. And they did that really, really well. Um, they did that really well, especially, like I said, the last couple of weeks before Sophia Gregory came back. And I think that's why we see West Branch really start to run on fire the last couple of weeks and now into the district semifinals because their other players have found ways to succeed without needing Sophie Gregory on the floor. And then you add Sophie Gregory, boom. That's like it's almost the biggest cheat code in the world to add someone like that right before tournaments. It's almost like Liberty is the same deal. Liberty was without Sienna Smith for the whole season, and then I saw them with her against Poland. They went from a team that finished I think third or fourth in that tough MVAC grade tier to a team that boat raced the 3 seed Poland in Poland because Sienna Smith was on the floor. And it's not just because Sienna Smith adds another scoring threat. It's because the same thing about West Branch. Remember, they had talented players, but they had to play in different positions. Liberty has a lot of talent, but when Sienna Smith is not on the floor, they kind of have to shift into everyone shifts into different roles. Demi Watson had to bring the ball down a lot more than she usually does. Aaliyah Foster couldn't be the straight up post player in the paint anymore. So when you look at the transition that made, all of a sudden now Sienna Smith's bringing the ball down. Demi Watson's more of a shooting guard. She works off the ball really well. And then Aaliyah Foster just kind of transitions right into that post player that can post up, dominate most players that are defending her in the paint, get a lot of easy points that way. That's Liberty's formula to success, and it works so well because Sienna Smith is now on the floor, bringing the ball down and running the point for the most of the time that she's in the game, and she can score 20 points per. That helps. I'm not going to disregard that, but you can see where I'm going with this, where she brings everyone back to their normal, their first position. What makes Liberty so special, what makes Liberty so successful is everyone being in their roles. And now Demi Watson can be in her role. She's the shooting guard that works so well off the ball, gets open, knows how to get open without the basketball. Aaliyah Foster's, now working a lot in the paint instead of having to kind of do both and be more of a guard than a forward without Sienna Smith on the floor. And now it's just it gets better. And then we saw it. We saw Poland try to trap Liberty every chance they got. It wouldn't work. They couldn't trap him because Sienna Smith, one, is tall, and two, knows how to handle the ball. Doesn't panic and did not panic against trap defense at all in this so much that Poland just abandoned it pretty fairly quickly. The only time you saw Poland bring it back out was when it was kind of desperation time, where the only way Poland was going to get back in that game was causing turnovers. So they kind of just went back to what their bread and butter is, to force turnovers, which is to trap, and it didn't work then either. And that's why Liberty just kind of ran away with that game, 64-43, that final score. But so I don't know if Sienna Smith will be in that conversation among my colleagues because of the fact that she was gone all season. But in my eyes and what I've seen, and if they make a deep tournament run, if someone was to ask me, like, that's pretty valuable when you take a team that without you was middle of the pack in the conference, and a very good conference. I'm not downplaying that, but didn't beat Crestview, didn't beat Garfield, didn't beat Brookfield. And then you go from that, and then you put Sienna Smith on the floor, and you boat race Poland in Poland. That's something, and that's not something that I would disregard. Like, she's not, that's something I would have. That's a conversation I would have. Another player that springs to my mind. We're going to get into a couple real quick since I have a little bit of time before we have to take a commercial break and get to our interview. Some players that aren't playing anymore that have been eliminated that I still want to talk about real quick. First of all is Casey Kanicki on Edgewood. I know, like, new to YSN, maybe some YSN listeners aren't privy too much to the Ashtabula County schools yet. They haven't had a chance to watch them on YSN too much. But if I saw her live, we've seen what she's able to do all season. Like Casey Mullen, she broke the program scoring record for Edgewood, boys and girls. She leads them in points. She leads them in rebounds. She leads them in blocks. You look at the statistical categories that she is the leader of Edgewood's team, and it's almost everything. I think assists too. It's just nuts what she does for that basketball team. If you took Casey Kanicki off that team and said she doesn't exist, it's gone, right? That team does not get a 6 seed. They have good players that have stepped up and helped her. That's why they have so much transition from last year where she was on the team to this year. So I'm not taking anything away from them, but she is the lifeblood of that basketball team, and she runs the show, and she commands so much respect from defenses. She scored 22 on West Branch despite the loss by 6. She averages over 20 per. She leads the team in rebounds, leads the team in blocks, leads the team in assists. It's just they go how Casey Kanicki goes, and she's gone really well all season long. And what has taken Edgewood to the next level, of course, is getting her some help and having Katie McCullister step up as a scorer, averaging 10 or 11 points per game, and having McKenna Venzel be more and more trusted as a basketball player. Happy birthday to McKenna Venzel, by the way. But having more and more players step up and help her compared to last year is definitely let Edgewood take that next step. But you take that. I think if you take her out of the equation, last year they probably are like they don't win their 11 games, and this year they probably take that step to 11 games, like 11 games this year. They would be where they were last year, this year without her. Does that make sense? Am I just talking myself in circles? This year they would be where they were last year if they didn't have Casey Kanicki. They would be that 500 team, didn't do too well in the conference, won a lot of non-conference games, middle of the pack in the district, and that's what they were last year. This year they've gotten her that help. Everyone else has been confident, but then Casey Kanicki is still there as a superstar, really, and that's why they're a big and a lot of win basketball teams. I don't remember. I think 18 wins. And they got a 6 seed in the district. They won a district they won a tournament game at home before they fought really valiantly against a West Branch team. But last year, honestly, just did away with them pretty quickly, pretty handily. I think that was a motivating factor this year. They had them at home. They wanted to prove to everybody that they could handle this West Branch team, and West Branch wasn't going to come and have their way with them. And they didn't. I mean, West Branch had to battle every second of that basketball game to come away with the win. And I think Casey Kanicki deserves to be in the conversation when you're talking about players that need to be talked about when you're talking about players of the year. I have talked way too long, and I haven't been able to get into any of the other categories at all. I'm going to say that for later in the week. Why not? We have Thursday and Friday, Wrestling Wednesday, obviously tomorrow. But we have Thursday and Friday to keep talking about players and keep gashing up players. Hopefully we still have a lot still alive after Wednesday. We should have a lot. We only have, if I remember right, we only have 3 YSN matchups, so we're going to lose 3 teams for sure. But hopefully some of those teams that are playing non-YSN schools can advance, and we'll have more players to talk about that are still playing for a district championship on Thursday when we kind of get back to that conversation. But I'm going to take a break real quick, and when I get back, we're going to play that interview with LeBray Bowler, Brogan Collins, on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you as always by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same here every single day. Talking about going the extra mile, we are going the extra lane, I guess you could say, as we are going to be talking some bowling. We're going to hear from Brogan Collins, a pre-recorded interview that I'm going to play with you guys. He is a bowler from LaBrea. If you didn't catch it at the top of the show, he finished first out of 80 bowlers in the sectional tournament, and he advanced to districts last week. So he'll be competing in that. He's a great bowler for LaBrea. That LaBrea bowling program is very, very good. They had their girl and their boys both advanced to districts, and both were representatives of the winner of sectionals. Both finished first on the girls and boys side. Here's the one of the leaders of that team, Brogan Collins, from LaBrea Bowling. Hope you enjoyed this interview. Anthony Hartwig with you. This is a LaBrea Bowling player profile. Our first look inside LaBrea Bowling this year. But man, it came at a good time. We're here with Brogan Collins from LaBrea Bowling. Brogan, man, thanks for coming on today.
Oh yeah, it's nice to be here.
Man, you dominated this last bowling tournament, the sectional, with first out of 80 bowlers, and you average, if you round up, a 239 in your 3 rounds. I mean, you've been doing this for a while. This is no surprise to anyone that's a LaBrea bowling fan, but what was working so well for you in this sectional? We'll start off with that.
Really, we practiced the shot and worked on it. You know, coming into the day, was hoping I'd have a good line there, and I had a good line coming into it. So it was pretty much stayed on that line all day. Throwing my jackal, it worked out for me.
What's it kind of like to go into an atmosphere like that with a tournament feel, and you got to realize that it's the end of the season and there's a lot of pressure to succeed. What was it like to mentally prepare for that matchup?
A lot of it is just stuff that I've been doing. You know, you got to focus on it, focus in, getting that tunnel vision. Focus on yourself, breathing, being ready for the challenge that's ahead.
Bowling is one of those sports like other athletes we talk to where it's individual in the sense that you're alone. There's no one that's going to come bowl a frame for you if you're struggling or whatever it may be. So with that being said, what kind of things do you do yourself to keep yourself calm, cool, and collected during a match?
A lot of it is just breathing and telling yourself what you got to do, thinking through every ball you throw. And a lot of it is just repetition, doing it over and over again, the same thing.
You've had a lot of reps, which takes us to asking about your start in bowling and kind of how you got into it so well and what made you fall in love with the sport that obviously you've worked so hard at.
Well, in the beginning, it was my mom asked my sister if she wanted to bowl. And she was like, Brogan, you want to bowl too? And I was like, nah. And then she was like, do you really want your sister to be better at bowling than you? And that's really what got me into bowling, to be honest. But I've just fallen in love with bowling. I mean, I've been bowling for 8 years, going on 8 years. So it's been a lot of my life I've been doing this, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, you know, you have the down times, but I love bowling.
Now, a lot of people, this recreational bowl, hey, we got nothing to do. Let's go down to the bowling lanes. When did it transition for you from just something that you could do with your family to, okay, this is something that I'm good at, and this is something that I could be extremely competitive at?
Well, it was really when I was bowling when I was like 11, 12, 13, and I was bowling with all these older kids, and I realized I could really, really be good if I practiced and put the time into it. And I've had a lot of good coaches, and my high school coach right now, Jim Huff, he's really, really the one guy that's pushed me forward and gave me all the knowledge and know how to be where I am right now.
I mean, you got to take us through the Bray bowling as a whole, because you're moving on. The girls' team is moving on. You won the sectional first out of 80 bowlers, and then the girls' side, Sarah Reeks won the sectional tournament as well. What is making LeBray bowling so good right now?
Really, it was a lot of the timing with just the people that were brought up within that time, but we've had a lot of good bowling through the years. Like last year, I had Lucas Lancaster and Matt Goldner. They were really big mentors for me. But right now, it's my coach, Jimmy Huff, and the girls' coach. But they're the ones pushing us, and that's the reason we're where we are right now.
When you think about your mentors of the past and the guys you just mentioned that were bowling with you last year, how much does that drive you to help the bowlers that are coming up into LeBray and try to leave the legacy on the program after you graduate in a couple of years?
You know, it pushes me because I looked up to those two guys that were ahead of me a lot, and I strive to be better than them every day I bowl. So I want the kids below me and the ones beside me to look up to me like that and push themselves to be better every day.
You know, obviously we talked about how individual the sport is and how you're alone on the lanes and it's just you and the pins and that's all that you can control. But it's still a team sport. You got teammates. How do you kind of balance that, you know, knowing that your teammates are behind you, supporting your teammates, but then also focusing on your game and the individual aspect of the sport as well?
For me, it's really I work on helping them through when they get upset or get mad and when they need to fix something. That's what I focus on. I focus on helping them, but I also focus on myself within that too. But being there for them is a big part of the game.
How much do you guys compete with each other during practices and in your free time and try to see like who's got the edge on the roster and things like that?
Oh, every chance we get, you know. We have a bet going on, first person to shoot 300 in a match, you know. So we're all going for that, and it's a fun time. We all compete heavily with each other, practice, games, on and off the, you know, everything. It's what we do. We're a family.
What's the closest you've gotten to 300?
I've shot in 266 and 265 a couple times. You know, I've been one strike off multiple times. It's just haven't got it yet.
When you kind of look at the bowling as it's looked at in the world, and there's so many good bowling movies in Hollywood and things like that. Do you have a favorite bowling movie?
Kingpin.
Kingpin, that's the classic. It's for me, it's between that and then the Disney one, the Alley Cat Strike. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like an old Disney Channel original movie, but I remember seeing it as a kid. When you think about your teammates and how much they are able to help you, what kind of things do you think they've helped you grow in as a bowler this year?
A lot of it is last year I struggled with like I was getting mad all the time and everything, but really I matured through my teammates, through myself, and that's what's made me a better bowler this year. I'm able to focus up. We're able to be there just in the game at that time.
What's amazing is you're having such a great year, but you're not done yet because you're going to be a senior next year. How
Mm-hmm.
much are you using the success you're having so far this junior season as kind of a springboard into what you're going to be doing next year as a senior?
I'm going to focus on the things that I know I can get better on this year and work those and keep working everything I'm good at now to move on through that.
If you were trying to sell coming out to a bowling game to someone that's never come out and supported you guys before, what are the selling points to coming out and watching a bowling match and being able to support you guys in the district tournament?
A lot of it is just being there and being in that atmosphere is. I mean, there's a lot of sports, but bowling is just different, and because you have to be perfect almost every ball, and coming and watching kids bowl and have to be near perfect every time they get up on the lanes it's beautiful.
All right, so who do you think your biggest rival is as far as a bowler? When you're going up against them, it's going to be a one of those matches where you have to bring your A game because they're going to push you throughout the whole match.
Mainly Garrettsville, Garfield. They're our biggest competitor, and McDonald, they are too. But if I'm bowling against one person, it's definitely Lucas Lancaster. He pushes me.
And when you're preparing now for that district tournament that we talked about earlier, what kind of things do you want to? I mean, I know this is going to sound crazy because you got first out of 80, but what kind of things do you think you can improve on as far as your performance in the sectionals up into districts?
My consistency. A lot of times I'm inconsistent with my spare shooting. I have to work on my spare shooting every day. Just keeping the same mark every day.
All right. Speaking of spare shooting, everyone knows the splits are tough in bowling. What's the biggest split you've ever been able to complete?
7, 6, 10, probably.
That's nuts. When you think of, didn't mean to full screen it, but when you think about your future, obviously you're a junior, which means the future after high school starts to get in your mind a little bit. Do you have any inklings of things you want to do in your future?
I would love to go to college for baseball and bowling if possible. That's what my future. That's what I want to do.
And yeah, we're going to talk about that next. You're also a star of this LeBray baseball team. What's it like transitioning from bowling to baseball when you go from winter to spring?
I typically keep on bowling through my baseball season because it helps me with my arm care, keeps my arm in shape. Really, there's no transition. I just keep on going bowling whenever I can.
All right, like, are there any things that you have to, any mechanics that bowling kind of, helps with the baseball mechanics as well? Obviously, throwing overhand compared to bowling underhand.
Really, it helps with my arm strength more than anything, and it's kept my shoulder and my elbow and everything in top tier shape before baseball season.
What do you think is the biggest thing you've learned from bowling that you take into your baseball career?
You have to be calm and collected through everything. If you get mad, you got to get right back into it. That's the biggest thing I've learned from bowling.
And you bowl and you play baseball. So the big question is, what's the best feeling in either of those sports? Is it a home run? Is it a big out? What's the best, or a strike? What's the best feeling in any of those sports?
For me in baseball, it's probably between hitting a home run and throwing someone out. In bowling, it's probably picking up a ridiculous split that you never thought you could pick up, or striking out to win a game. In bowling, yeah.
What about things that you like about baseball? We're talking about baseball now, getting ready into the season. What got you into baseball, and what made you fall in love with that sport?
When I was younger, I was watching some kids play t-ball, and I asked my mom if I could play, and that was what got me started. But moving on, I fell in love with the game because I realized I was good at it, and it was something I could do. So I practiced all the time. I started playing with kids that were older than me and better than me until I was better than them. And that's what made me fall in love with the sport.
There is no way that you play baseball without some superstitions. So what kind of superstitions do you have as a baseball player?
Oh, that's hard. Typically, when I go up to bat, something I'll do is like I'll kiss my bat before my bat, and I'll like put my initials down on the ground before I bat.
You got to show it some love if it's gonna work, right? Do you have any superstitions that you carry into bowling?
Um, if I shoot good, I'll wear the same socks. You know, I'll put everything in the same place it was. You know, I try to think the same things I was thinking. I sing a song in my head. You know.
I think one of the things that the bowlers really remember, probably when they look back at when they started, was the first bowling ball they were ever able to get that was their own. You know, they didn't have to use the lanes bowling balls anymore. What was your first bowling ball, and how much do you remember it when you're going through your career?
Well, my first real bowling ball that I got for myself was a forged flare, and I got that my freshman year. Well, yeah, going into my sophomore year, really. I was just using ones that were handed to me and people gave to me, but that one, it was a big step up for me, and now I can't stop buying new bowling balls.
And that makes, you know, something that I've never really thought about. But like, how many balls do you go through? Like, is there different balls for different situations that you go to?
Yeah, there's like some balls, read the lanes more, some react more. It's all about what ball is right for the conditions on the lane. So,
And that's something that is also interesting too, like because every lane is a little bit different. You probably have to feel for it as you go in a match. Like in the third or fourth frame, you start to feel for the conditions of that. How do you adjust to that on the fly?
a lot of it was my coach. He taught me how to, correctly move and correctly adjust to the pattern on the lane of the oil and what balls I should be throwing. Since you get a little bit of practice time before the match begins, you figure that out after your first or second ball and you make your adjustments then.
And this is totally novice question, but the weight of the bowling ball, do you have the same weight the whole time, or are there different weights that work for different situations? Like, hey, I need a little bit more spin on this ball, so it's going to be maybe a pound lighter than the other ones, or something like that.
Typically, I throw a 15-pound ball for everything. Some people move up to the 16 or heavier, or some people don't like throwing the 15, so they'll throw a 14. But typically, I stick with the 15-pound ball.
All right. What are since you said that your mom got you involved in bowling, my last question is, what are your favorite memories bowling with the family in the kind of the recreational sense?
I think it was my sister's birthday or someone's birthday, and we all went bowling. And me, my sister, and my mom bowled on our own lanes, and my uncle was like, "Man, that Brogan kid's just good at everything, isn't he?" And it was like only a couple years after I started bowling, and that's always stuck with me.
You know, your mom threw out the challenge that you had to be better than your sister at bowling. I mean, now that we're there, are you, or is it still an edge to your sister?
When I was her age, I can say she's a better bowler than I was. So I think she's going to be a really good bowler when she's my age.
All right, Brogan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today to talk about your bowling career and give us a little bit of preview into your baseball season as well. We wish you the best of luck in both those. Good luck in districts coming up, and we can't wait to talk to you again real soon. Thank you again for coming on.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Brogan Collins, a bowler and baseball extraordinaire for LeBray. You'll be able to, after he wraps up his bowling season, which he's still playing in the district tournament, you'll be able to see him as a LeBray Viking on the baseball field as well. Great interview, great student athlete. That's the best part of this job, is to be able to tell the stories of kids like that. And I appreciate him giving me a little bit of a 101 on bowling, because I had no idea the intricacies of competitive bowling. So I asked some novice questions. I was upfront about it, and I'm happy he was able to answer those for me off the jump. So without further ado, let's end the show by going over the tournament games that'll be in action tonight. Remember that $9.99 one payment gets you access to all these games. Before we go into the ones that you'll have to pay for, there is one regular season game going on tonight that is free. East Palestine boys will travel to Columbiana. That is a regular season game. You can watch it completely for free on YSN. We'll go up to the boys tournament games now. We'll start at the top of the list. And this is, I think, alphabetical order by the away team. Ashtabula St. John will be traveling to Cardinal. Noah Ricks is going to be on the call for that one. We have Chalker going to McDonald. Matt Marr going to be on the call there. Fairport Harding goes to Badger. Matt Morrison will be the Badgers' faithful announcer there. Don't miss a minute of that one. Fairport Harding beat Badger once this season, so the Braves looking to right the ship there and not and avoid another one against Harding. Hubbard will go to Canfield. Richie Giuliano, Anthony Romo will be on the call together for that one. 7 o'clock tip-off there. Kinston goes to Cheney. Jamie Thompson on the call. Liberty goes to Conneaut. Alec Caberna traveling with the Leopards. Lordstown will go to Wellsville. Coy on the call there. 7 o'clock tip. Maplewood goes to Lisbon. Rick Daly, you know it. He's on the call. 7 o'clock. Crestview will be at Waterloo tonight. Ty Bartell will be on the call in Atwater. Salem goes to Struthers, their school broadcast team taking care of that one from the field house. Southeast goes to Camel. Eric Hughes will be on the call for the Red Devils against the Pirates. West Branch goes to Edgewood. The girls got the win there on Saturday. The boys will try to do the same, but they're going to have to deal with Zach Vinsel in that really tough Edgewood offense. Sam Torres will be on the call there. Jackson Milton will go to Heartland Christian. Mark Franken on the call for that one. I'm actually really interested in that one. I want to see how much of a run Jackson Milton and the Romine brothers can make. Lakeview will go to Cardinal Mooney, 7 o'clock tip-off for that one. Mapleton will go to Sebring, not Maplewood. I know everyone's used to hearing their name. I almost said it. Mapleton. Mapleton goes to Sebring. Orange at Poland, the school broadcast team has that one covered. Crestwood at Garfield, same thing. The school broadcast team has that one covered. Both those games start at 7. Beaver Local will go to Indian Creek. Chris Ziegler will be on the call as soon as Indian Creek clears it. That's what we're waiting on. Indian Creek clearing us to be there. Some games that are going on the road that we will not be at but are still happening. If you want to go out, buy a ticket. Reminder that OHSA tournament tickets can only be bought online. There will be none sold at the gate. Here's the other games that are tournament tonight for boys basketball. Edison will go to Malvern. Latonia goes to Mogador. Minnow Ridge will be at Minnow Lake Catholic. West Chiago goes to Jefferson. Western Reserve will be at Kidron Central Christian. Youngstown East will go to Hawken. There is one girls tournament game today. We have one team left in Division 1, and that is Hoban. They will play tonight at Perry against Shaker Heights. 6 o'clock, the tip-off time for that one. So there you go. Those are the games that are happening tonight. Both mostly boys, one girls, one regular season game you can get for free. Have it all on ysnlive.com/live. Quick reminder, if it's anything other than $9.99, it is not us. Do not fall for scammers out there that are trying to get you to fall for a link that says you have to subscribe to something. You don't have to subscribe for anything. It is one payment of $9.99. If it's not asking you for that, it's not us. So fair warning to all those people out there that accidentally click on links or follow a link to somewhere else. It's not us. We can't control what advertisers pop up on our website. Those little ads that, those little ads that pop up on everybody's website. They'll pop up on your Facebook too. Do not let them trick you. So all that being said, enjoy all the basketball tonight. Tournament tips off. I did that twice today. Tournament tips off for boys basketball tonight in the sectional round, and we were so happy to cover it. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Wrestling Wednesday comes at you tomorrow with Gary Altizer. Got a special guest lined up there. We'll have that for you tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow from 1 to 2 on Running Point, brought to you